Third Soul Core. Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Soul Land 2 Peerless Tang Men based on novel. So let's start. Di Qian had an 800,000-year cultivation. His abilities were unparalleled. Their palms shone at the same time. Golden and black lights clashed instantly. They were originally only 100 meters apart from each other. However, after they clashed, the gap between them immediately widened significantly, as if they had sparked each other. A strong ball of light formed at the center of where they were earlier. After this, a terrifying energy storm caused space to shake tremendously. A huge black hole instantly appeared at that position. It was more than 3,000 meters in diameter, and it was devouring everything furiously, such that the clouds below were rising towards that black hole. Some strange also happened. Below the black hole, there seemed to be a black and golden tornado. It only lasted for 10 seconds, but it was an abnormal phenomenon. Huo Yuhao and Di Qian were several thousands of meters apart now. Di Qian appeared very surprised. You formed your third soul core. Its spatial type. Huo Yuhao nodded slightly. Yes. Otherwise, why do you think I dared to challenge you? The breakthrough was already at its most critical moment. The strength of the ice and snow empresses were almost fully drained. Huo Yuhao's third soul core had already taken form in his dantian, but it was circulating on its own. Sitting in the cave, Huo Yuhao could sense a lot right now. He knew that the next fusion was going to be the most critical one. If it succeeded, he would improve by leaps and bounds. If he failed, both he and Tang Wutong were doomed. If he had a choice, Huo Yuhao would rather not choose to cultivate his third soul core forever. He wasn't willing to take the risk with Tang Wutong. However, the Dragon Emperor Doluo and Death God Doluo had poured too much soul power into their bodies. If they didn't absorb the soul power, they were mostly likely going to die. If they couldn't control the soul power, they would die even faster. This was why they were in closed-door cultivation. What he had to do now was let his third soul core fuse with his other two soul cores. A new chain was also to be formed during the collision. If he hadn't absorbed the Evil Eye Tyrant King's spiritual power and raised his spiritual power to a new tier, Huo Yuhao would really be lacking confidence. Right now, he had some confidence. He immediately relied on his spiritual intent to slow down the circulation speed of his three soul cores. The slower they were, the less likely it was for mistakes to occur during the fusion later on. This was undoubtedly the best choice. After he slowed down his three soul cores, Huo Yuhao started to adjust them slightly again. He increased the circulation speed of his first soul core, which was his spiritual soul core, whereas he slowed his other two soul cores down even further. In this way, things became a little messy between his intersecting first and second soul cores. Their fusion was built on a foundation of balance. This was how Huo Yuhao had completed the yin-yang complement method. Right now, the balance was affected when their speeds were altered. His soul power undulations became a little unsteady. However, Huo Yuhao made a strange choice. He silently drew out the spiritual power in his spiritual sea. His spiritual soul core was at the core of his spiritual sea. As he drew out his spiritual power, a part of his spiritual soul core slowly separated itself from his spiritual sea. The immense spiritual power in his spiritual sea was the origin of his spiritual soul core. Without the support of his spiritual sea, his spiritual soul core couldn't possibly stay stable. Only someone like Huo Yuhao with such immense spiritual control could do something like this. If a titled Doluo tried this, he would most likely have died by now. His soul power bulged a little. After this, Huo Yuhao started to struggle. Under his control, the spiritual power, which he drew from his spiritual soul core, started to sink towards his chest, whereas his second soul core rose, as it was pushed by his soul power. Yes, he was trying to switch their positions. This was the best method if he wanted to cultivate his third soul core. After absorbing the Evil Eye Tyrant King's immense spiritual power, Huo Yuhao's soul cores were already a little unbalanced. This was because his spiritual soul core was too strong, and his ultimate ice soul core paled in comparison. This was why the strength of his spiritual soul core would devour that of his ultimate ice soul core, just as they collided to form his whirlpool-like soul power. Due to this, Huo Yuhao was forced to separate a part of his spiritual sea from his spiritual soul core. Right now, he was relying on the strength of his spiritual soul core to complete this fusion. His two soul cores shifted positions. The pain made him feel as if his organs were being torn apart before being put back into place. Even though Huo Yuhao was already prepared, he still felt excruciating pain when he got to doing it. His two soul cores passed each other. At that instant, blood streamed out from all his pores. Given his physical strength, he was still unable to bear such excruciating pain. On his forehead, his Eye of Destiny had already uncontrollably opened. However, it was dim inside. His Eye of Destiny had fused with his spiritual soul core. Now that his spiritual soul core was being moved away, it greatly influenced his Eye of Destiny. However, he still persisted. His two soul cores were finally separated. His ultimate Eye soul core was heading up, and his spiritual soul core was heading down. The energies that clashed generated unstable soul power. A low-pitched blast could be heard coming from Huo Yuhao's body. This was because his soul power wasn't stable, leading to minor explosions in his body. Finally, his ultimate Eye soul core was pushed to where his spiritual soul core had been, and his spiritual soul core was also moved to his chest. Both soul cores were guiding each other. They wanted to return to their original positions. The chain between them was like a taut rubber band. Once it was released, it would immediately catapult both soul cores back to where they were originally. Huo Yuhao actually opened his eyes right now. If anyone could see the look in his eyes, he would discover that distorted lights were shining inside of them. He was shaking as he lifted his right hand. He pressed it against his Eye of Destiny. It was normally a very simple action, but it appeared very difficult for him now. Finally, Huo Yuhao's right hand was high enough. He used force and pressed his right hand against his Eye of Destiny. A weird ball of light shone. Huo Yuhao groaned slightly. He already sounded like a wild beast. At the same time, he removed the last layer of protection around his third soul core. The force generated from the circulation of his third soul core instantly appeared. Strong traction was immediately unleashed. The spatial whirlpool-like soul power it generated immediately clashed with the spiritual soul core at his chest. It was also at this moment that unprecedentedly strong spiritual power was unleashed from Huo Yuhao's Eye of Destiny. There was a strong suction force. At the same time, Huo Yuhao released control of his first and second soul cores. Both soul cores immediately sprung back to where they had been. Right now, the strength of his third soul core was guiding his spiritual soul core. The strong suction force caused his third soul core to be wrenched out from his dantian. It left its original position. If there was one word to describe the situation in Huo Yuhao's body right now, that word was messy. His three soul cores had shifted positions. Whether it was his spiritual power, ultimate ice soul power or spatial type energy, everything was a mess. However, there was one thing that was in order as his three soul cores circulated, and that was his spiritual soul core, which was trying to return to his brow, and his ultimate ice soul core, which wanted to return to its original position too. This was even accelerated, because of the great suction force that was suddenly generated by his Eye of Destiny, such that his spiritual soul core instantly sprang back into its original position. It stuck closely to his Eye of Destiny, and unprecedentedly strong spiritual power was unleashed. At that instant, Huo Yuhao's spiritual soul core, an Eye of Destiny fused completely with his spiritual sea. His spiritual power was enhanced even further. Then, the mountain peak that Huo Yuhao and Tang Wutong were on turned pure gold because of this terrifying spiritual power. However, that traction was simply too strong, such that his ultimate ice soul core immediately sprung away again. His third soul core also sprung up once again this time. The energy between both soul cores caused them to clash with each other. These two soul cores were obviously circulating in different directions. Something strange occurred. Under Huo Yuhao's precise control, they instantly fused through the yin-yang complement method. However, they weren't where they were supposed to be. Rather, they were close to Huo Yuhao's shoulders. The three soul cores formed a strange triangular shape. The control that Huo Yuhao had relinquished earlier now returned. The two soul cores that had completed the yin-yang complement sank. Huo Yuhao's third soul core returned to his dantian, where it was supposed to be. What about his second soul core? It returned to his chest. Due to the yin-yang complement method, both his soul cores were already shining extremely brightly. The immense spiritual power that came from his first soul core also sank at this moment. When it came, it didn't just clash with one other soul core. It directly collided against the chain between the second and third soul cores. Immense spiritual power was directly poured into that rapidly spinning whirlpool-like soul power. The ultimate ice and spiritual soul cores were originally fused through the yin-yang complement method. Naturally, they complemented each other. And his ultimate ice and third soul cores had undergone the same fusion right now. Due to this, the fusion of the third soul core was unprecedentedly harmonious. Huo Yuhao's spiritual soul core was the strongest out of the three. Its strength sank down to the ultimate ice soul core. After it fused with his ultimate ice soul core, it continued to sink down to his third soul core before it fused and assimilated. The strength of Huo Yuhao's second and third soul cores helped to neutralize the strength of the spiritual soul core, which was much stronger than either of the other two. A strange balance was formed as a result. It was like a link that was moving up and down in Huo Yuhao's body. After Huo Yuhao's soul power fused many times, it gathered in his dantian. It then entered his passageways through his mysterious heaven technique. The earlier mess and chaos vanished. The result was that Huo Yuhao's spiritual power was mainly gathered in his head, whereas his dantian was where his soul power gathered. At the same time, he possessed three different elements: spiritual, ultimate ice and space. The fusion of the third soul core was complete. The entire process sounded very complicated, and it was even more complex in real life. The reason why Huo Yuhao was able to complete the most important part was because his spiritual power was strong enough, and his spiritual control was precise enough. Huo Yuhao slowly put down his right hand. Thorn-shaped halos were silently flashing around Huo Yuhao's Eye of Destiny. Yes, there was something special there. When the Evil Eye Tyrant King was killed by Huo Yuhao, he didn't just leave behind a 700,000-year soul core. He also left a small eye. That eye was in the shape of a vertical eye. It wasn't a decoration. It was the soul bone that the Evil Eye Tyrant King had left behind. It was an unprecedented external soul bone, an evil eye. Under normal conditions, no human could absorb this evil eye. First, it was because it contained too much spiritual power. Next, it was also a vertical eye. It couldn't even be said to be a soul bone. It was just a manifestation of a strange form of energy, but it was superior to soul bones. It contained the purest spiritual power, as well as some of the memories of the Evil Eye Tyrant King with regards to his abilities. When he tried to take over Huo Yuhao, he actually paid a huge price. After all, his main body was gone, and he couldn't possibly pour in all his strength into his soul rings to fuse with Huo Yuhao. Given this, he left some of his soul skills in his eye. However, he had failed. The control left behind in this eye naturally disappeared. Huo Yuhao managed to unleash his spiritual power by fusing with this evil eye at the last moment. This increased his spiritual control to the maximum, which led to the fusion process earlier. Otherwise, it couldn't have been completed. He only fully recovered after a long rest, after he completed his fusion. Next, it was time to help Tang Wutong. Given his spiritual cultivation and control, he was Tang Wutong's evil eye. No, rather, he was the Eye of Azura. After listening to Di Qian's astonished voice, he was reminded of the torment he went through to cultivate his third soul core. His success was tightly related to luck. If not for the Dragon Emperor Doluor's immense soul power, and the Evil Eye Tyrant King's soul ring and eye, he wouldn't have stood a chance at all. It was only through trying that he knew that forming a third soul core was actually so difficult. He was the first in history to complete it. While Tang Wutong was the second, she only succeeded with his help. Of course, that was also because their martial souls were complementary. It wasn't impossible for Huo Yuhao to help someone else form a third soul core. In terms of the volume of soul power, Huo Yuhao was still inferior to Di Qian. However, Di Qian was still shocked because of the immense soul power generated from his 3 soul cores. This was because Huo Yuhao's soul power was superior to his quality-wise. They were inseparable after their first confrontation. They were separated by that black hole. Even with their cultivations, they didn't dare to get close to it. The suction force coming from that black hole was simply too terrifying. It was a phenomenon of space being torn apart. Once they were sucked in, there was no turning back. They also didn't know where they would be transported to. Huo Yuhao's gaze suddenly shifted. After this, he shifted lightning quick. This was because neither of them could use spatial power given this huge crack in space. This was why he could only rely on his speed. Once he moved, the beast god also moved. He shifted at the same time. Undoubtedly, he was trying to make his way around the black hole. The black hole slowly shut. However, both Huo Yuhao and Di Qian both knew that space had been completely crushed. It would take a long time for it to be completely healed. They both moved hundreds of kilometers instantly and stopped at the same time, as if they were telepathic. Huo Yuhao's eye of destiny opened. He pointed his right hand at Di Qian. Before his soul rings even appeared, a whirlpool and a skull appeared behind Di Qian. Spiritual confusion and spiritual enfeeblement. Di Qian revealed a cold smile on his face. Useless. Your soul skills won't have any effect on me. No matter how strong your spiritual power is, they won't work. Unless you are much more powerful than me, dragons are immune to most spiritual attacks. As he spoke, he pointed at Huo Yuhao. Suddenly, the space around Huo Yuhao seemed to bubble. Purplish air bubbles suddenly appeared before they blew apart, turning into countless purple billows that moved towards the giant dragon in the center. After this, they surrounded the dragon as it shot into the sky. The corrosiveness of the darkness element was properly demonstrated right now. However, that purple region soon stopped. It slowly turned white and smooth, and transparent snowflakes fell from the top. After this, the purple whirlpool from before slowly dissipated. It turned into countless snowflakes before scattering. The air temperature, which was extremely chilly, fell even more dramatically. The entire sky was covered in a hazy fog, which Huo Yuhao used to conceal himself. It seems like you've understood the true meaning behind ultimate ice. Di Qian nodded as he complimented Huo Yuhao. He waved his right hand, and the snowflakes that came in front of him naturally dispersed. He didn't retract his right hand. It transformed instead. His joints became huge and thick. After this, scales started to surface and form a dragon claw. It was the dragon god's claw. Di Qian was actually prepared to use his dragon god's claw against Huo Yuhao in this fight. When it appeared, it felt as if something mighty and terrifying had appeared in heaven and earth, even though Di Qian didn't attack. The snowflakes that Huo Yuhao had formed were crushed at this instant. They turned into powder and instantly disappeared. Huo Yuhao was even revealed from the fog, and his body shook slightly. Di Qian's expression also turned serious, as he faced his dragon god's claw towards Huo Yuhao. Behind him, a projection of a huge black dragon surfaced. Above this projection was a ball of rainbow light, shining brightly. Huo Yuhao had never seen Di Qian in this form before. He only felt helpless, like an irresistible force was restraining his body and soul. The pressure on him kept mounting, as if it wanted to crush him just like that. Although the dragon god's claw was only tapping into the strength of the dragon god, it was still left behind by the dragon god for Di Qian. Di Qian was also able to make breakthrough after breakthrough with it, eventually becoming the beast god. This wasn't the strength of gods, but it was beyond the strength of an ultimate Doluo. It was like it came from a demigod. The biggest problem with Huo Yuhao was that he hadn't expected Di Qian to use his greatest strength the moment the fight started. From this earlier interaction, he knew that he had lost. He had lost to the beast god's experience and slyness. In his heart, Di Qian's superiority influenced his judgment. He didn't demonstrate any arrogance at all. Instead, he revealed his greatest strength to pressure Huo Yuhao. He didn't give him any chance at all. Huo Yuhao felt very strange. He had done this himself before, which was to limit his opponent before completely defeating him. This was undoubtedly the best strategy in any fight. Right now, he was on the opposite end. And it didn't feel good at all. The entire sky distorted because of the immense pressure. A low-pitched dragon roar rang in Huo Yuhao's ears and shook him greatly. Di Qian's claw was slowly turning golden. In his eyes, a rainbow flare had already started burning. A smile appeared on Di Qian's lips. "Young man, you must not have expected this. I've already treated you as my nemesis the moment you dared to challenge me. How could I have survived until now without giving my all every time?" Di Qian used to be invincible in the past. Indeed, he was very arrogant. However, he was really hurt after he was attacked by evil soul masters not long ago. Although his injury wasn't very serious and he managed to retaliate, he was still left with a deep impression then. This also reminded him of how powerful humans could be. They could already threaten him. This was why he didn't hesitate to unleash his strongest attack, after he felt that Huo Yuhao already had an unprecedented third soul core. Although Di Qian didn't know how strong a third soul core would be, he must have possessed twin soul cores for hundreds of thousands of years longer than Huo Yuhao. How could he not have any understanding of third soul cores? This was why he didn't want to give Huo Yuhao a chance to unleash his full strength. He used his greatest power the moment he attacked. The dragon's claw didn't belong to him, but the dragon god. This demigod-like power had threatened many of his enemies who were once stronger than him. It had helped him to become the beast god. Right now, when he used it again, Huo Yuhao was completely suppressed. The lights coming from Huo Yuhao's body kept on transforming. In Di Qian's eyes, he seemed to see Huo Yuhao's 3 soul cores shining non-stop. Every time they shone, his soul power would spread with stronger momentum. However, what was the point of this? Even if he had 3 soul cores, his power was still at the human tier. It still couldn't compare to the power of a god. Regarding this, Di Qian was extremely clear. Huo Yuhao's expression seemed to turn cold. Behind him, the projections of his spirits kept on flashing. However, they only flashed for a short period of time before they changed. He couldn't sense the changes coming from Di Qian's body. However, Di Qian could sense that he was using different types of soul power to break out from this restraint. The dragon god's claw had already turned golden. The tip of his claw was already shining with a rainbow glow. It's no use. You don't have to attempt to break out of this restraint. What you can only do is drain your own soul power in the face of the power of a demigod. Don't worry. I won't kill you. I want to complete my perfect plan, which I mentioned to you earlier. When your soul power is drained, I'll take you back to the Great Star Doe Forest. Huo Yuhao looked at Di Qian calmly. The soul power undulations coming from his body suddenly weakened. When they weakened, Di Qian's rainbow glow suddenly shone brighter. The entire sky started to distort, and Huo Yuhao's body started to tighten, as if it could possibly be crushed. Di Qian was stunned for a moment. An ultimate Doluor was not supposed to cave in so easily. It was also at this moment that an icy blue light flashed before it disappeared instantly. Di Qian only felt that everything in front of him was empty. After this, that icy blue light was in front of him. Ding! Di Qian raised his dragon god's claw, and blocked the invasion of that icy blue light. However, that icy blue light instantly bloomed like a flower, forming countless streaks of icy blue light. Di Qian's body was completely engulfed. Di Qian wasn't the only one with demigod-like abilities. Huo Yuhao had been complacent, but so was Di Qian. He didn't dare to kill Huo Yuhao. If he had attacked with all his might earlier, Huo Yuhao would most likely have been severely hurt. However, he only wanted to assume control over him. Sigh of the Frozen Goddess, Morning Dew Dagger. It was a powerful weapon of the god of emotions. When Huo Yuhao completed the formation of his third soul core, he was finally able to unleash demigod-like abilities. At his tier, his icy war god armor was no longer as effective as it used to be. However, the Morning Dew dagger was different. Even if he became a god, it would still be a very useful weapon for him. Rain Dragon's Dance. Two figures suddenly flashed past after a short few seconds. Di Qian broke open space and appeared 1,000 meters away. His dragon god's claw was already rainbow-colored. However, there were 7 wounds on his body. None of them were very big, and no blood was seeping out. However, there was a layer of frost on top of each of them. However, did it really look as simple as it was on the surface? Huo Yuhao was panting 1,000 meters away. His Morning Dew dagger was flashing with a bluish glow. Light fog drifted around the bluish glow, making it seem extremely divine. Di Qian was watching him, and was already looking very serious. Demigod-like abilities. He actually possesses demigod-like abilities. Although Di Qian could tell that Huo Yuhao was hugely drained with every attack he unleashed, he also knew that he was hurt from the previous attack. The strength of ultimate ice was quickly invading his body. No, it wasn't just ultimate ice. There was also Huo Yuhao's spiritual intent and spatial power. Spatial power could be neutralized, but Huo Yuhao's spiritual intent and ultimate ice were already causing destruction. If not for his immense physical strength, he would have been greatly hurt. He was hurt. He was really hurt again. Di Qian slowly lifted his dragon god's claw. Suddenly, he looked into the sky, and a dragon's roar turned into countless echoing sounds. The huge black dragon projection behind him exploded and turned into a black fog that surged into that rainbow dragon projection. Suddenly, rainbow lights shone brightly and turned Di Qian into the same colors. He stretched his dragon's god claw out towards Huo Yuhao. A huge dragon claw suddenly appeared out of thin air before it reached out towards Huo Yuhao. Huo Yuhao was tightly holding onto his Morning Dew dagger, and he suddenly took in a deep breath. Thick icy fog suddenly rose at an alarming speed, turning into rings of icy fog. Huo Yuhao then raised his dagger high above his head. At this instant, Huo Yuhao was completely covered in a holy aura. It gave him an indescribable feeling. It was as if he had completely fused with the dagger at this instant. His facial expression turned gentler. As ice and fog gathered, Huo Yuhao disappeared. He was replaced by a graceful figure. It wasn't the ice or snow empress. It was also not the goddess of light. It was just an icy blue figure. She was more than 100 meters tall, and she released an icy, foggy aura from her body. Her appearance wasn't very clear, but she was wearing an icy blue dress. A voice started to ring out. Following this, a ball of icy blue fog surfaced from her head, and received the dragon god's claw. The rainbow projection stopped instantly and turned icy blue. Di Qian was stunned. What's this? It's already stronger than ultimate ice. The strength of the dragon god's claw was actually quickly being drained, as it were being frozen by the icy blue fog. Of course, he didn't know that this was Huo Yuhao's unused 9th soul skill. It was the 9th soul skill of his Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion. When he attained 9 rings, Huo Yuhao originally believed that he could obtain a 9th soul ring from the Ice Bear King. However, he experienced a mutation then. His 9th soul skill didn't appear directly. Instead, it was very ambiguous, as if it were just a haze. Although his 9th soul ring was red, Huo Yuhao didn't know what his soul skill was going to be. It was only when the ice and snow empresses burned their spiritual sense and fused completely with him that his 9th soul skill presented itself. With a 100,000-year soul ring, he naturally had 2 9th soul skills. These 2 soul skills didn't just belong to any spirit. All of his ice-type spirits had them. They also fused with the strength of his Morning Dew dagger. They were 2 extreme soul skills of ultimate ice. Right now, Huo Yuhao was using one of them. By using the Morning Dew dagger as a guide, he was able to unleash the immense power of this soul skill. Huo Yuhao named this soul skill the Sigh of the Frozen Goddess. Blow. Huo Yuhao's cold voice resonated in the sky. Di Qian's body shook, and a strong black glow was released from his body. Even so, a series of explosive sounds were still heard from his body. It was characteristic of the ice explosion technique, after ultimate ice was introduced into Di Qian's body. The frozen dragon god's claw started shuddering. After all, the sigh of the frozen goddess was Huo Yuhao's soul skill, and not really the power of the ice sky snow goddess, whereas the dragon god's claw was extremely close to the power of the dragon god. At this point, Huo Yuhao suddenly moved. He didn't advance, but retreated instead. He was already in front of the frozen dragon god's claw, and he smacked it. Piak, Di Qian's body shook. Due to the ice explosion technique, he wasn't able to control his claw or intercept Huo Yuhao. He could only watch blindly. At the next moment, Di Qian's pupils shrank. This was because he was astonished to find out that his connection with the dragon god's claw had been cut off. This Huo Yuhao actually possesses such a power. It was his second ultimate ninth soul skill, Absolute Zero. It was combined with the Snowless Glacier. First, Absolute Zero was used to consolidate the sigh of the frozen goddess, before it was poured into Di Qian's body using the Snowless Glacier. The terrifyingly low temperature and godlike strength of the Morning Dew dagger finally blocked off Di Qian's lethal strike. This video will end here.